special Beyond the Arc. I'm John Gonzalez alongside our NBA insider, Bill Reiter, and the rematch, Bill. The rematch of the Nuggets and Oklahoma City went much dying already. 2 seconds into the show, and I'm dying. What much better? The Nuggets lost on Sunday by 24, Bill, and they turned around and put up 140 to tie the season series against Oklahoma City. This was the response that we were both looking for.
Yeah, I mean, like, this is. I was about to tell you that I'm not going to make too much of it. Let's make way too much of it. This obviously is a precursor that if these two teams play each other in the NBA playoffs, it's going to be a 1-1 split after 2 games, because this was a back-to-back, right? The response from the team that actually has the experience. Here's my actual takeaway: the Nuggets are really good when they get up for games, when they get contributions from guys who aren't Nikola Jokic, and while the latter one of those two things aren't a guarantee, he got a lot of help from a lot of guys. Jamal Murray was really good. I thought Christian Brown was really good. It's not as sure a thing as the Thunder in terms of the Nuggets like playing at a high level and being dangerous, but it's possible. That's, I think, the takeaway from the game.
Yeah, and no Aaron Gordon either. I mean, Aaron Gordon ended up being injured or hurt. We'll see the extent of it in Sunday's game. So in comes Russell Westbrook, who, Bill, had more field goals in the first 4 minutes tonight than he did the entire game on Sunday. The lot of them played better. One of my takeaways was that, man, how much better are the Nuggets when Jamal Murray is aggressive offensively, when he's hunting shots, when he's distributing. What did he have tonight? 34 points tonight?
34 and 11 of 22. Yeah,
he looked considerably better. Here's another thing that I think the Nuggets look a lot better when they shoot the absolute lights out. They shot better than 60% from the floor, better than 56% from 3, and 90% from the line. They could not miss in the second half.
If you want to do a pro Oklahoma City view of this game, and I'm not necessarily espousing this, but this is one of the best offensive performances of the year by the Nuggets. It is by far the most points that the Thunder have given up this season. And so there's also a takeaway where for the Nuggets to respond, they have to play. It's not a perfect offensive game, but it's pretty close. A 60, 50, 90 game. I mean, it's a hell of a performance, but it's not going to happen 4 times in a 7-game series against the Thunder.
Obviously, the Nuggets are one of the best offenses in the NBA. Oklahoma City's offense is no slouch either. But Oklahoma City's defense is miles better than everybody else. And I think that is a really fun idea of a series should they meet in the postseason, where you've got this juggernaut offense against this like really singular defense where everybody on that team, I mean, you were talking about it in today's earlier pod about how just basically everybody 1 through 6, 1 through 7 can switch and guard everywhere for Oklahoma City. But crazy. Yeah, I think it's probably you're asking a little bit more of the Nuggets because everybody has to be hot. You've got to get Jamal Murray untracked. You've got to get MPJ playing well. Aaron Gordon has to be healthy. And then, Russell Westbrook has to contribute. Christian Brown has to contribute because that bench is just like non-existent. That margin for error is next to non-existent.
I mean, here's the old lies, damn lies and statistics. So poking around in Basketball Reference, I noticed, and this, you have to fact check this because I was sort of going through it. I didn't write it all down, but it hit me that I'm pretty sure that of all the Thunder's losses this year, all but one, the opponent scored at least 115 or 116 points. And in most of the cases, 120 or 130. The Thunder don't lose games 101 to 97, right? Defenses, the teams that make their sort of hay on defense and aren't great offensively, the Orlando Magics of the world, they don't beat the Thunder. The few games the Thunder have lost, they have lost to teams that just go, you know what, we're going to score 128 points and just try to outrace these guys. And that's how the Nuggets won a championship a couple of years ago. Mediocre defense, amazing offense. And that's how they won this game tonight. Again, I don't know how it actually transfers to the playoffs, but it's an interesting part of the game that this is kind of the formula, the very difficult formula to pull off to try and beat this Thunder team.
They played Joker in a pretty traditional way. We talked earlier today about how like the new hot way to play Joker defensively is just to throw 3 guys at him and try to deny him the ball. And then you're basically daring everybody else to beat you. And it had worked to some effect for the Lakers. It had worked for the Kings. Oklahoma City, I think, is maybe too proud and too good defensively to try something like that. But it's interesting. So now all of a sudden, Bill, if you're Denver, you're feeling a lot better about yourself because you came into tonight 1-6 against the three best teams in the NBA, against Oklahoma City, the Cavs, and Boston. Now, all of a sudden, you've split the season series with Oklahoma City. You went from having losses of 15 and 24 and just a 2-point win in the one game that you won to now all of a sudden you're 2-2 against Oklahoma City. And
yep.
Your point, you have an idea of, all right, well, I guess this is just what we're going to have to do against Oklahoma City. We're just going to have to outrace them offensively and hope they have a bad night. And on a night when Lou Dort hit a career high 8 3-pointers.
Oh my God, he was on fire.
Chet didn't look that good offensively.
No.
SGA and Lou Dort, you were looking around for some offense. So like maybe that is a way they could pull this off.
And to your point about Denver kind of making right against an elite team, this is the business end of the season now, and not to discredit all the other games that sort of predated this, but now we're kind of getting down to brass tacks. Where are you going to be? The Lakers have obviously made a push for that 2 seed, so Denver's kind of fighting for something that's fairly significant, and they're playing at a really high level. I was thinking about your point on the podcast earlier. It's a really good one about how JJ Redick went about and the Kings emulated trying to confound the Nuggets, right? Just throw 3 guys on Joker and make somebody else beat you. They didn't do that tonight, but I'm not sure it would have worked because, I mean, they shot lights out from three-point land. If you take away Joker's 3-point shots, I think he was 1 of 2, the other guys on the Nuggets team shot 55% from the 3-point line. And so that's like even on a night like this, even that strategy doesn't work. Right.
Yeah. Right.
If the
other guys are knocking down their shot, but I mean, like that's really, I think, and JJ was asked about it, and other teams that have tried to they know what they're doing when you do that. You know that you're going to lose a game if other people are knocking down shots. And it's just kind of like, it is a pick your poison strategy. Does it matter? I mean, the Lakers ended up having a bad loss tonight. They lost to the Nets, a Nets team that did not want to win that game, ended up winning that game. And it was sort of the opposite of what
doing that.
Yeah. The opposite of what the Nuggets did tonight. The Lakers just could not hit a shot. Austin Reeves and Luka were super, super cold. I don't think it matters for those two teams, the Nuggets and the Lakers, if they finish 2 or 3. You just don't want to fall to 4 or 5, because if you can help it, I would much rather avoid Oklahoma City until the finals, the conference finals, than have to have them in the second round.
I mean, I agree. I think, yes, priority 1, do not fall to the 4 seed. Do not play Oklahoma City until you absolutely have to. Hope someone else pulls a miracle and takes them out. But if you subscribe to the idea, and I think we both do, that the Nuggets and the Lakers are both flawed but still legitimate contenders, not on the level of the Thunder or the 2 big dogs in the East, but are legitimate, and the history that Denver has against the Lakers, but the fact the Lakers obviously have Luka now, I mean, I'd like home court advantage in that series. I mean, that's the kind of series that could be a dogfight. And so to a smaller degree, right, less significant, I think especially if you're LA, maybe just because maybe the ghosts of those moments went away with Anthony Davis, but Denver's had your number. That's been a reality.
So interesting as we see the jockeying in the Western Conference in the standings. So the Nuggets, because they won tonight, they are now a game ahead of the Lakers and the Grizz. The Grizz held on in a really dumb, awful, close game.
It was terrible.
One of the worst close games. So we were waiting to do this show, but I had to go on HQ, and we couldn't go on HQ until the Grizzlies and the Suns wrapped. And that game, even though it had started after the Lakers game, took forever to finish because there was a zillion timeouts and there's so many reviews. But the Grizzlies, they have their own injury issues, but they tried to give that game away. They ended up holding on. Ja looked really good. So now, Bill, as we're sitting here looking at the standings tonight, they are a game behind the Lakers in the loss column. So they're the 4 seed right now. The Lakers are the 3. And the Rockets, who have their own injury issues now that Ahmed Thompson has rolled his ankle, they're only a game back of the Lakers. That whole 3, 4, 5 situation is getting awfully tight. And if you're the Lakers, LeBron cannot, I don't know, you got to stitch up his groin or wrap it up or have him rub some dirt on it and walk it off. I don't know, man. I'd be pretty nervous about this, especially because now they're on this road trip, and you lose a game to the Nets that you can ill afford to lose. This thing is super tight.
I mean, the problem becomes, and we just don't know where LeBron's at. The guy's 40. And even though he's been a T2 Terminator level machine in terms of almost never being injured, I mean, you also got to make sure that he is 100%, not 100% healthy, but 100% able when he comes back to with full, at least the high level of confidence, feel like you're not gonna injure yourself again, because as bad as it is now, it'll be real bad on August 15th or 16th when the playoffs get going.
I want to thank everybody who's joining us on YouTube. We appreciate that. We do some of these live shows periodically. We'll continue them as the regular season funnels towards the postseason. We're going to take a quick break, and then on the other side, we have gone back and forth. We have oscillated about. Do you want to do a little MVP talk?
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, I absolutely am. Because I was asking about it on HQ tonight. Our guy Russ was asking me about it, and I told him basically that you and I have discussed it, and that this thing really is going to come down to the wire. Like, ask what's the last thing that I saw? That's what I'm going to end up probably picking. And so tonight, I guess it's Joker again because he looked fantastic, and SJA did too. But Oklahoma City ended up losing that. But we'll talk about the MVP race, and it's going to be a really close one. We'll do that on the other side. This is Beyond the Arc. All right, maybe we're not breaking. Our producer was having some technical issues. Let's pretend like we
welcome back.
Decided to break there. Aaron, if you're still there, you could jump in the chat and tell us when you want to break a little bit later. But a reminder to everybody also that you can get us wherever you get your favorite podcast. Please download, subscribe, leave a review, and if you decide to listen to us on Spotify at some point, our partners over there, you can look below the play button on the Spotify app in full screen mode and tell us what you think about the show or leave a question. All right, Bill, MVP race. You have a vote. I do not, but we like to, talk through these things together on the show. And
I'm collaborative. We can do it together this year. I have to fill it out.
Get a percentage of the vote.
You can have 50% of the vote because I want to give away. I want to abdicate as much responsibility as I can for what is going. There's been a few votes. The year that your guy Embiid won, I did not vote for him. It was I thought a three-way race between Joker, Embiid, and Giannis, and I filled it out whatever order I did. I lost sleep over it. I lament, and then as soon as I push send, there's on the NBA system who they outsource it to. Once you push send, you can't get it back. Right? Once you fill it in, John, it's over. You could vote for the wrong Antetokounmpo, and it's done.
Yeah,
and I thought I sent it, and the minute I sent it, I hated my vote. And there was no order I could have done where I wouldn't have felt that way. This year is going to be worse. I've been leaning a little bit Joker, but however we come down, you and me, shared responsibility. Yes. It's going to feel, I'm going to swear here, shitty.
The Beyond the Arc podcast, where do we fall in this? I think it's really close. There's certainly a case to be made for SGA. It's not entirely based. It's just a little bit based on, tonight's result and the fact that our producer Aaron might be back in here.
We're just going to do this indefinitely.
We're just going to keep talking until he tells us that we can throw it a break. But it's a really good case for SGA. And I think that there's any number of things to factor into this here. The fact that he's the best player on the team that I think is the best team in the NBA, tonight's results notwithstanding, the Joker fatigue, the narrative that goes into it. And
I don't want that to impact. You're right. I just don't. That shouldn't impact things, in my opinion.
It shouldn't, but it does with other voters.
It does.
My thing has been twofold. One, if you say who's the best player in the world, you should get one answer. And then two, his numbers are absolute. I'm talking about Joker. SGA's numbers are fantastic too, but I think that Joker's numbers are pretty historic in that if he ends up averaging a 30-point triple-double on 50, 40, 80 splits, which has never been done in NBA history, I don't know how you say, and if they finish second in the NBA, I don't know how you look at that guy and go, he's not the MVP.
All right, so he's a multi-time MVP. He's obviously a first-ballot Hall of Famer, and there's a world, he's got to win more titles, but there's certainly a conversation that's possible where he's a top 15 player of all time. And by the way, John, if the guy wins 3 more rings at some point, or 2 more rings, it might be higher than that, and he's about to have the best season of his career. This is a better season than his other MVP seasons. Career high in points per game, career high in assists per game. I mean, so the thing is, SGA or whoever it is, it's SGA, has to be better than Joker's ever been to win the award. And he might be. Like, he's been that good. But for me, the whole narrative, and you're right, people get bogged down by that. It absolutely influences people. And the sort of, being over, I can't vote for the guy again. This isn't Joker doing what he's done minus 5%. It's Joker doing what he's done a little bit better and carrying. It's also, I think, different to carry a team once you've won a championship, because now there's championship level expectations, and he has largely carried them for large. They're the 2 seed, and if they finish at 2, it's going to be 89% because of him.
And you've talked about and made a really good point about, I mean, that supporting cast that he has compared to what Oklahoma City has in SGA. I mean, Oklahoma City has so many more ways to beat you. With Denver, it's like, oh man, I hope Jamal Murray gets hot tonight. They could really use him, right? And like, you're going to get like a pretty baseline level of MPJ, who's just like, he's consistently better than average, but he hasn't taken that step forward where it's like, man, that guy should be a world beater. He's big and he's athletic and he's got talent. And like, why hasn't he done that yet this season? Whereas with Oklahoma City, Chet didn't have a good game tonight, but Isaiah Hartenstein, the man in the mask, has been so good for them. Lou Dort, who's just
career game.
He is a first team all defense player this year, but just, shot the lights out tonight. And and you go down the list, there's been so many games this season where you're like, oh wow, it's the Aaron Wiggins game tonight or the Isaiah Joe game tonight, or Jalen Williams is an all-star. They have way, way, way more players. And I think that's
so athletic. They're also good defensively.
Yeah.
And we've talked about this. Joker has to carry a team that's mediocre defensively. And Shea, it's not a slight on Shea, but he has the advantage of being part of, and he's a reason for it, a part of a team that's a freaking unstoppable force defensively. I mean, that's a different challenge. Joker's got to make sure his team scores a lot more points than most guys in the league that have teams that are legitimate. This is the worst team. This is the worst defense in the NBA for a team that has a legitimate chance to win an NBA championship. And the reason they have a chance is because of Joker.
It's kind of oddly entertaining, though, because on nights when they're not good offensively, like they really weren't yesterday or in that Lakers game against, LeBron and Luka, where they just held Denver to around 100 points. It was like a total disaster. But there are nights like this where the offense is clicking and you're like, okay, I could maybe see this.
If you had to vote right now, so this is what I do to myself. I don't put it. If you had, and you can change. If you had to vote right now, you had to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Who's 1 and who's 2? If it's today, the deadline's 10 seconds.
All right, hold that thought because producer Aaron is back, and we are going to have a break, and then I'll answer your question on the other side. We should actually talk through the top 5 anyway, because it is in flux a little bit, especially with that 65 game threshold wreaking havoc on all these late injuries. We'll discuss that coming up. Don't go anywhere. This is Beyond the Arc.
The clock never stops. Relive the greatest moments with uninterrupted highlights and more. It's Gareth Bale! Ronaldo! Wonderful goal! On the UEFA Champions League channel. Streaming free.
Beyond the Arc after Denver ties up the season series against the Thunder. They lost yesterday by 24. Tonight, they put up 140 points. They looked fantastic. We're talking through the MVP race, and you want to know who's 1 and who's 2 right now.
Yeah, as of today.
I'm voting Joker. Joker 1.
Me too, dude.
It's really close.
Yep.
But I would feel better. I mean, as much as I would love to come up with an idea of, it's SGA's time. And look, I think you and I are in the minority here, because even though my narrative shouldn't matter, our guy Tim Bontemps over at ESPN does a straw poll. And in his most recent straw poll, it was SGA pretty heavily favored. And then on top of that, the betting markets have SGA as the pretty strong favorite here.
I will say a couple things on Tim's poll. 1, he didn't ask me, so my vote is not in there. 2, this time around. 2, I won't say who, but I've talked to several guys. This is over the last 4 weeks because it includes the All-Star game, whenever that was. But a handful of guys who were in that straw poll who voted, who loved him, but are like, happy to do it. My mind has changed 4 times since Tim asked me. That if Tim had asked me at a different time, it'd be a different vote. So you're right. I just think you and I can't bet on this award. Obviously, I can't. But I think it's a lot of value on Joker. SGA could win. I think it'll be closer than that straw poll suggests.
I think
these games keep happening.
Yeah, I mean, as we get down towards the end of the regular season here, and you have new information, and you see now the season series is tied. Like, okay, now all of a sudden it looks like it could be a lot closer than that. I love the MVP tracker that they have over at Basketball Reference. So that model is a little bit different than. Yeah. So that one isn't based on narrative, right? Like when you look at the Vegas odds, a lot of that is baked into who they think people will vote for. Their model is based on how the award was voted for in previous years, measured against the numbers that are happening right now. And they have Joker as one. Let me see here. What's the percentage? I cut off my thing here. By like 2-1, Bill. They've got Joker as the guy.
So that's what should be, not predictive.
This is what should be, not what they think will
from
happen.
Their viewpoint.
What we think will happen is indicated by the betting markets or even by Bontemps poll. But Basketball Reference's model is, hey, given all the MVP awards that have happened previously and the stats that we have to go on this year, it should be Joker.
Yep. We're obviously aligned. Who do they have? Who's 2, 3, 4, 5?
Okay, so this is where it gets interesting. Obviously, it's SGA 2. Then after that, it's Giannis 3 and Tatum 4. And you and I are talking about that as like, okay, the top 4 are pretty clear. 5, 6, 7, 8. That conversation gets interesting because now they've got it statistically extremely close for the last spot, for the 5 spot, between Evan Mobley, Karl Anthony Towns, who we've talked about. It's interesting if Karl Anthony Towns ends up in the top 5 when we're not sure he's the best player on the Knicks, but having a very good season. And then LeBron James, who's in flux because he might not make the 65 game threshold. He's got the groin injury. We'll see when he comes back. He needs to be back by April 3rd in order to qualify.
But it's not Cat for me, by the way. We've had this conversation. Not best player on his team. Do
you like Mobley for the 5 spot more than, say, Donovan Mitchell?
I am conflicted on Mobley at the 5 spot. And my internet cut out. Whatever producer Aaron has is contagious. Where is Steph on there?
Not on their top 10.
Not on their top 10. Okay.
No. So if you're choosing between, if you've got Evan Mobley, who is an all-star this year, is going to make all NBA. And by the way, if Jaren Jackson Jr. doesn't come back in time for him to qualify, he needs another 7 games or 7 or 9 games, something like that, in order to qualify. Right. Then all of a sudden your DPOY is pretty much locked up for Evan Mobley. Then your MVP top 5 case becomes stronger. They are the best team in the Eastern Conference, might finish with the best record writ large.
Are Mobley and Mitchell sort of, I just mean in the sense of there not being a clear number 1, kind of like the Celtics last year where Tatum was the guy, but Jaylen Brown was so important. It didn't pull votes, but obviously Tatum was not a real contender for the MVP last year or this year, in part because the view is it's not a one-man band. I feel kind of the same way about Cleveland. Yeah,
I think that they might cannibalize some of each other's votes, right? Because you're going to get some people who are going to go, well, Donovan Mitchell, even though he's, not going to finish with as many accolades as Evan Mobley, he's probably still the best guy. So then maybe he gets a couple votes, but then there are other people who might throw some votes to Evan Mobley. You mentioned Jason Tatum. He just consistently now is going to be in the top 5 in the MVP voting, I guess. Not be anywhere close to winning.
Never win. He was so good the other night. What game was that? Oh, it was the Lakers game. He was so good in that game and at the end of that game. And he's never going to win an MVP. Ever.
Giannis gave a quote recently. He said he was talking to his brother. I guess he was talking to Thanasi, but he's like, he thought that it was kind of wild that Giannis himself, who knows that he's one of the great players in the NBA and is consistently himself in the top 5 and is going to make first team all NBA. He thinks that he's basically now out of the running for MVP. You have LeBron James circling back and putting up numbers similar to what he did in 2012, 2013 when he won the MVP, and maybe he would have cracked top 5, and maybe he still will if he returns in time to be award eligible. But you have these players who are just top 5 players in the NBA who aren't going to get anywhere close to sniffing an MVP award because you still have Joker and you still have SGA, and oh, by the way, Wemby's coming if he's healthy.
I'm looking at these odds right now, and it's amazing how many of these names have been pulled off Cat pulled off the board, LeBron pulled off a lot of the boards, Donovan Mitchell, Anthony Edwards pulled off some of the boards just because either thresholds or unlikelihood. Yeah, I'm with you. If it's Wembanyama is the great sort of destroyer of other people's MVP hopes in the future. So leaning into hope and leaning into this. I think it's reasonable. This idea that he should be able to come back, deal with what he has. That doesn't. We've talked about this. The blood clots don't sound like the same thing Chris Bosh had. Different part of his. Hopefully everything's okay. If he's around for the next 10 years, there aren't going to be many MVPs to win. There will be some, but you're right. They're not going to Jason Tatum. They're probably not going to Giannis. You have to think Joker is going to keep putting up some of these games. By the way, Luka Doncic has to win it. I mean, not has to, but you would presume with the Lakers, if they have success and he's a Laker, he's going to get a lot of shine for an award. It's going to be hard to win this thing.
Yeah. Evan Mobley, if you do win DPOY, enjoy it because that's going to be the last one for a while, provided that the blood clot thing for 1B isn't a big deal. Super fun game tonight if you're the Nuggets. Less so for Oklahoma City, but I think with Oklahoma City, they just go, okay, well, we lost this game and we've been playing well and we trust our team and the way that we play. But that was a game that the Nuggets absolutely needed, Bill, and Joker needed for that MVP narrative. So kudos to Denver for responding and answering the bell on that one. I guess this is going to do it for us tonight. Anything else from you?
I just like that we matched again on accident. We did it again.
I wore the T-shirt for the quick change from HQ so we can get up on the show right away. It's critical that you just get into the phone booth and take the jacket off and away we go. All right, that's going to do it for us tonight. We're going to be back at it live on YouTube at 12 p.m. Eastern on Wednesday. You can find us on YouTube, as always, at Beyond the Arc CBS. But for now, for our NBA insider, Bill Reiter, I'm John Gonzalez. We thank everybody for joining us on YouTube. We'll see you next time.